Hi there, my name is Simon Williams. I'm a chess grandmaster. I'm 32 years old. I've been a grandmaster at chess for a long time, and I was lucky enough to meet James Eden a couple of months ago down in Godalming, a game shop I work at, and James introduced the game of Captica to me, and we'll just show you this game now. It's a lovely green box which we have here, which I'm going to bring up now, and Captica is basically a three-dimensional game, and it's based on this cube here, and it works around 4 different colours, and there's certain things you can do with this. But one of the great things with this game already is that Hamleys have taken up a contract on this game to stock it, and so have Lakeside, so it's already in production. And we're going to have a look at some other games based around this idea of 4 colours a bit later on. But I'd just like to introduce you to a couple of my friends here who are going to help us continue with this little presentation. So we have Lisa on my right, and we have James, the inventor of Captica, sitting opposite me. So James, now I'm going to throw the Captica cube at you, and you're going to talk a little bit about the cube.
Okay, the Captica is an invention from about 2008, and so basically I had an idea and then we brought it into market extremely rapidly. Within about 2 or 3 years we had 5,000 in a warehouse, and we were selling at Hamleys, so this was instantly, you know, sort of straight into the best shop in the world. Now the Captica itself is an extremely unique product. It's basically something that nobody's seen before. You've got 4 colours, you've got a cube, you've got pegs, and you can play multiple games on it, and the games can be multiplayer games or they can be single player games, and we have altogether about 40 different games that you can play. Now we've made a partnership recently with an exciting partner, and we're going to make an announcement about it in the future as of this filming, so I can't talk about it now, but the upshot is that we're going to put the Captica to one side and concentrate on the next generation of products that our company, which is called Captica, is going to make.
Okay, thanks James, and now we're going to talk about the next generation of these Captica games, which are very exciting, and they have some real good advantages, I think, over a number of games out there. For a start, they're very simple to learn, so you can learn the rules in 5 to 10 minutes, and we'll come on to that a bit later on. But as a chess player, I know that chess is reasonably easy to learn, but also you can get very in-depth and get very strategical about the game, and this is exactly the same about Captica. As well as learning the rules within 5 minutes, it will take you a long time to master the actual in-depth intricacies of some of the gameplay, and this is what has excited me about the game really. I learned it very quickly, but it took me a long time. Well, I haven't mastered it yet, obviously. So basically, advantage are it's easy to learn, but it will take you a long time to master. And the games can be casual, but they can be in-depth, and probably the average length of a game is about 10 minutes. So you don't have to spend a long time sitting down, worrying too much, worrying yourself about if you've got something to do. You can play it in your lunch break even.
So yeah, Simon was saying, you know, basically the beauty of the Captica games is that they're short. You know, that the rules is only just a handful of very short rules. You can read them in 20 seconds and be up and running. Now the simplicity of the games, however, does not actually mean that the games themselves are simple, because you have this depth for people who enjoy the tactics, enjoy the strategy and the depth and everything. But the main point is it's also brilliant for casual gamers, right? You know, a family sat around a dinner table, you know, after lunch, you know, whip out the game and have a quick game, you know, 10 minutes, and you know, it can be light-hearted. You know, it doesn't have to be an in-depth game at all. It's just something that, you know, can be a light-hearted bit of mindless fun. So it's a bit of everything, a bit there, you know, for deep players or casual players. Also, I'd like to say about the games is that we have many different games that can actually be sort of you know, in terms of, you know, variations of the main game. So we have a board game with the main set of instructions for one single game, and then with minor tweaks and so forth and so on, then you can add in some extra variations on the main game. So we call those the bonus games, and but the idea is that you can do things like the main game itself is a multiple player game, so basically Lisa, Simon and myself and, you know, somebody else or even more people could get around a table and play. And however, we can also play single player games, so, you know, we have like puzzle type games and also solitaire type games where you can sort of have a random aspect and play by yourself. And so this basically is one of the advantages of the new generation of Captica games.
So some of the other advantages about Captica games are that a lot of the games are completely new games. There's kind of 2 sorts of angles with Captica games. I mean, most of the games are unique games to do with 4 colours. But some of the other versions are also tweaks on classical games that have already been developed. We'll come on to these games a bit later on. But the new games, as a chess player, fascinated me, and I haven't really seen anything out there in the world of gaming like this before. So, James, maybe you can tell us a little bit more about these.
Yeah, sure, thanks. The idea is we have 4 colours, as Simon was saying. Now, the important thing about having 4 colours is you don't want more than 4 and you don't want less than 4. Let me explain why. 4 is the optimal number, it's the best number for richness of gameplay. If you have more than 4 colours, what tends to happen is that for nearly all games, you normally find that there's too many possibilities, there's too much complexity, and you kind of dilute things a little bit. You know, it's kind of you're moving away from simple concepts into things that are sort of more abstract and less appealing, less something that you can't grasp as well. Now, conversely, if we have too few colours, like for example a lot of like classic games are based on black and white, then basically there's only certain things you can do with black and white. It reduces the number of possibilities and can curtail the richness. So for the basic idea behind the Captica generation of games is we have 4 colour based games, and then you normally find that within those constraints of 4 colours there is an infinity of richness that can be obtained.
Okay, so we just had a little look at Captica, and now we're going to have a look at the new generation of games that James and his company has created. So the first game we're going to have a look at is Solitica. And James obviously knows how to play this game quite well. Me being a grandmaster at chess, he's shown me the game a bit, so I know the basic rules. So we're going to demonstrate that on the board in front of us by playing a game. Lisa hasn't seen the game before, but we're going to have a look at that in a minute. She's going to play the game as well. And we just start by, this is how the board's set up anyway. I'll pass you over to James for a second, and he can tell you a little bit more about the basic concepts of the game, Solitica.
Okay, this is how we play Solitica. First of all, basically Solitica is about removing the counters from the board. So the way we do this is we take a counter and we hop over another counter to remove it. So for example, yellow can take red by this mechanism, and if we were going to continue to play, say if it was green's turn, and assuming that everybody has a different colour, then green would take a blue by hopping over the blue. And so that's the basic idea, is that this is how pieces get taken off. And a piece can even take its own colour, and I'll say more about this later. Okay, so it's very simple. Each person has a colour, so Lisa could be red, and Simon can be blue, and I could be green, and somebody else could be yellow. Or if there's 3 players, what you do is you have it so that one of the colours is neutral. So you can only move your own colour. So if I'm red, for example, then basically I could make this move where I could take a yellow counter off the board, for example. And so the idea is to play, and then it goes over to Lisa and then Simon, and we take turns. So the idea there is that essentially we continue playing, and then the person with the most counters of their own colour at the end is the one who is the victor.
So James, actually, when you taught me this game earlier on, it reminded me a little bit of drafts in some respects as well. The way you capture pieces by going over them. And I'm sure you can get this game more involved as well by taking 2 in one go, but that's another game altogether. Yeah. But I mean, should we try a game anyway? If we play a game and see how it goes.
Yes, absolutely. Why don't we go ahead? Yes,
okay,
that's a good idea. I mean, to come back to drafts, with drafts, then yes, you can take more than once. For example, if I was green, I could, if it was drafts, then you could sort of like keep going until you can't take any more. So theoretically, we could make a move like that. Yeah. But simple, the basic Solitica rules is based on just a single taking action per move. But however, once you've mastered single player Solitica I should say, then the idea is that you can then move on to a more advanced version where you can actually sort of maybe do multiple takes on a single move.
Me for a chess player, I thought this is quite interesting because obviously I've played quite a lot of drafts and I know competitive drafts players, and you have the simple game, but if you want to make it a lot more complex as well, if people really learn the game, then they can add these new rules to the game as well, seeing how they fit. But if we play a simple game for now, that's probably a good way to start, I guess.
Yeah, let's start with the basics, and, and we'll walk through the game.
Yeah, good.
So another aspect of the rules is with Solitica, you fill up the board such that there's only one space in the centre that is empty. So what we'll do now is we'll randomly put the counters onto the board to fill up until there's only one space.
Okay.
So the next thing we do is we choose who's what colour, and say for example, what colour would you like to be, Lisa?
Be blue.
Lisa's blue.
Okay, I better be red.
But I'll be green. Yeah.
At least I'm still red then. Okay.
Right.
Right. So, Lisa, would you like to remove one of the counters from the centre? Okay, that's great. And now it's Simon to move.
Okay, so if I just talk my way through this, I'm the red counters, so I have a couple of options here, a couple of moves I can play. 3 options really. I can take my own piece, but that'd be rather stupid because I want to keep my pieces on the board until later on. And the other 2 options I have here...
Oh, do you want to demonstrate that, Simon?
Yeah, okay, so I'll demonstrate that. So I could take my own piece by going here, then I'd remove my own piece from the game, but that'd be counterproductive to what I'm trying to achieve, because the aim of the game, the way you win this game, is by having the most of your own kind of pieces at the end. So that'd be a very stupid move for me to play. So instead, the other 2 options I have is either by taking a blue piece here.
I should add at this point that because there's 3 players, we have blue, we have red, and we have green. This means that there's one colour left over, which is yellow. Now the yellow piece, they're a neutral colour, so nobody can move a yellow counter, and but they stay on the board. But people can take a yellow counter if they so wish. Also, if you notice that at the beginning of the game, Lisa removed a yellow from the centre, which was a good idea because when there's 3 players, it makes sense to remove the neutral yellow colour from the board. Now, also with Solitica, you can actually play with 2 people. If you play with 2 people, then each player has 2 colours, and basically just treat those 2 colours as the same. For example, one player could be green and blue, and the other player could be yellow and red, and they can move either of those. If you've got 4 players, then that's a nice simple scenario where one person red, one person green, one person yellow, one person blue.
Okay, so we go back to my first move here. I'll just explain it again while I'm going to play the move I'm going to play. I'll explain why I don't want to take my own piece, that'd be silly. I also would rather not take a neutral piece, which should be the yellow piece, because no one has a yellow piece they're playing with. So I think my best move would be able to take a blue, because at least I make someone else's chances of winning the game a little bit less probability wise. So my first move I'm going to play here is I'm going to capture that blue simply by jumping over it. And now we go to James, and it's James's go.
Okay, great. So Simon's made a move, and he's the first one to draw blood, and he's literally drawn. He's drawn blue blood, so obviously that's royal blood, right? It's an English joke. Okay, so now what colour am I? I'm green, and guess what? I don't. If you look at all of the green pieces, there's none of them that can hop over any of these counters that surround the 2 gaps, and this means that green, very sadly, is unable to make a move. So green misses a go, and play now passes on to Lisa.
So I can take a yellow, I believe.
I was wondering another way you could play this, James, possibly. You had a random setup. You could have certain different setups like chess. Maybe, it's an idea. Just so people have got a different way of starting the game. Random's nice, but just a possibility maybe.
Yes, that's an excellent point, because at the moment what we've done is randomly just placed all of the counters onto the sort of array of 8 by 8 squares. But of course, when we're playing this game, then you could have smaller squares, right? You could have a shorter game just by putting counters just in one of the inner squares, or as Simon was saying, we could actually have certain patterns where you start off with fixed patterns, fixed setups.
Because in chess you have certain openings, and you could have certain ways you could start the game, and there's certain patterns you get used to maybe.
And the idea is then you could basically, when you play games more than once, then you're actually sort of playing on a level playing field, and there's no luck involved.
Yes,
it's all skill. Yeah.